meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everybody. We've got another couple of minutes that I'll give folks before we get started, but hopefully everybody is having a good Tuesday morning. Typically we do these on Fridays. Well, we've done these on Fridays in the past, I should say. We haven't done them as typically anymore because I know a lot of people were experiencing Zoom fatigue, but we did feel this is information that we need to get out there. We are going to record this and make it available after the fact. Appreciate everybody being on, and we'll get started here in about another minute.
Morning, Paul.
Dave, how are you?
We're all right. How things in Reno?
Yeah, things in Reno are hey, it's a beautiful day. Not too cold. Growing up in Elko, Reno feels tropical to me. So there might be like 3 days a year I wear a coat.
Yeah.
How's everything in Vegas?
Well, it's all right. It's not bad. Little coat weather this morning, but it'll turn into long sleeves here shortly. So
Everything got a little easier after the Formula Sports FS1 left town.
Actually, we're still dealing with it because we're cleaning all of it up and moving all the bridges out.
Oh, man.
So we're still messing with that pretty much 24 hours a day right now. But I can't complain. It was a good job for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're the right guy to do all that, Dave.
Yeah, it was a great job, actually. So.
Well, and it did look, I will say, it did look absolutely amazing on TV.
Yeah, I didn't go. No, and I didn't even watch it on TV. It was past my bedtime.
Well, yeah, they do that because it's all the people in Europe and the Middle East that love it. So
yep, exactly. That's what they said too, and they said it did good for the town. All the high roller tables were full, so they were happy.
On the strip, downtown was dead.
Yeah.
Well, hey, good to have everybody join us today. Gonna go ahead and get started. We wanted to let everybody know what's going on in California, and we've done a webinar on this with Mike Tunnell from the American Transportation Research Institute. It's been a while, but just to kind of let everybody know, hey, this is coming, and now it's here, and you've got a couple of weeks to register to make sure you're in compliance. CARB, which is the board in California that regulates air quality, unelected board, they have come up with some rules, and while there are rules that are being challenged right now by our friends of the California Trucking Association, who do an absolutely phenomenal job of defending our industry against a tremendous measure of insane regulations. This is one that there's not a fight on. When you have limited resources, you got to pick and choose your battles, and this one that is going to be moving forward. So, while there's some other things with the advanced clean truck rules that may be put off or may be successfully defeated in a court of law, the HDIM program, which is now being called the Clean Truck Check program, is not one of them. So it's best to go ahead and get in compliance now. So let's just kind of talk about what this is and who it applies to. So this is for all diesel and alternative fuel vehicles, not gasoline vehicles, with a GVW of 1,400 pounds and over. And that is every single vehicle out of state and out of country that is operating in California. So you're going to need to determine what vehicles you're going to be sending into California and register them. So how this is going to work is if you have a OBD onboard diagnostic in your truck, this is where it applies to you. So 2013 and newer diesel engines and diesel hybrids, this is going to apply to you. And then 2018 alternative fuel and alternative fuel hybrids. So you're going to need to have an OBD compliance test starting in July, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Who it won't apply to is those vehicles that don't have an onboard diagnostic. You're going to have to do the regular snap idle test where they stick that little opacity reader into your stack. That's how that is going to work. If you do have, and I talked to somebody last week who has some CNG trucks that are operating in California, those are going to be exempt from the requirement. So that's where your exemptions. There are some other exemptions that we'll go over. So of course, ZEVs, emergency vehicles, tactical military vehicles, motorhomes registered outside of California, vehicles with a historic license plate. If you're operating under an experimental permit from CARB, gas vehicles, and, sorry, I skipped over one. Out-of-state vehicles operating under a governor's emergency declaration. I know from dealing with some of our members who have had audits done by the EPA for CARB, your federal tax dollars are being spent to enforce state laws. When there is an emergency, like the bridge at Orville, when it had that dam failure at Orville, I know that trucks were sent there to respond to that disaster. So that was a governor's emergency declaration. A wildfire, an earthquake, you can send those vehicles in at that time. And then your new vehicles that are that have the most stringent NOx standards, which haven't been sold yet. So and those will be exempt for 4 years. So of course, CARB, always forward looking. So let's talk about what you have to do to be compliant. So there is an online database where you go and you fill out your California fleet. You log into the Clean Truck Check website, and we sent the email out with links to all of this in a document that our friends at CTA did. You log in, you pay $30 by December 31st of this year, and then you will get a printout like this. Now, it's very important that you have this because not only does this apply to the motor carrier industry, it applies to brokers, it applies to your customers. So anybody that you are contracting with to send freight into California, they are going to need to have this affirmation of fleet-wide compliance from your company. One of our members who's already registered sent this to us. So that's what it looks like. Be sure that you are sharing that with your customers, because this is a record-keeping requirement that is motor carriers, brokers, freight contractors, so just about everybody. So what are they doing today? Well, today they have these little inspection stations set up. They are looking for those higher emitting vehicles. They're looking at opacity. They're looking at smoke. And if you get a letter in the mail saying, hey, your truck has failed a compliance test, you've got 30 days to submit a passing one to CARB. There are requirements for our freight contractors, brokers, that they only hire those compliant carriers and keep records. And, a freight contractor, any person, excluding a broker, who enters into any contract with any party requiring the operation of a heavy-duty vehicle in the state of California. Now, that does not include an end-use consumer. So, if you're hiring a moving company to go into California, you're not required to keep those records. If you have an Amazon package, or you're using a third-party contractor like our big LTL folks to send packages. You're not required to that. Brokers, yes, you are. If you are operating as a broker, you do need to have that record. You do need to have that certificate of affirmation. And then there are some requirements on seaports and intermodal rail yards that they set up inspection stations there. But that's a little more complex than our members here at the Nevada Trucking Association are going to be dealing with. So periodic testing, no earlier than July of next year, you are going to be required to have your truck have that little dongle put in the OBD2 and submit a compliance test. So they're saying, hey, we want it semi-annually starting in 2025. You're going to have to submit that twice a year. And then 3 years after 2025, you're going to need to submit that quarterly. So, this doesn't apply to motorhomes, ag vehicles, but for most of our folks, this is something that you're going to have to do. Now, I do want to let folks know that our friends of the California Trucking Association have put together a phenomenal 4-page document that has a tremendous amount of information on this. Who's required to file, what's required, how you determine, when you're sending that compliance in. They've done a great job. We sent this out. We will continue to send this out. But there are questions about, okay, let's say that I get a notification from CARB and I am not compliant, or can I do this myself? I have talked to a number of our dealers here in the Silver State, and they are aware of this. So they are working through the process to get their folks certified. You can, if you want, self-certify. You can go and you can buy the little OBD2 hardware device plus the software license plus a renewal. It's about $1,600, and you can submit that data directly to CARB. Now you have to go and you have to get certified to be able to do that. Right now, there are the tools. CARB is working with some of the telematics providers today. So that data will be sent directly to them. A lot of this is forward-looking based on technology, and they don't have a whole lot of specifics yet. But this is something, once again, it's not going to start earlier than July. So that is that is something that you want to be aware of. All right, I have a question from Mark. Registered said he would get an email with further instructions. I would tell you to go back and register again. I do know carriers who have already registered, and we will send that clean truck website out again, and that's what I showed you right here. So this is where you go and do it. You register your account, and from what I understand in talking to our other motor carriers, they have successfully registered and received that certificate of compliance, that affirmation of compliance, as CARB is calling it. So fleet-wide compliance. So Mark, I would go back there and take a gander and make sure that just make sure that you're compliant by the end of the year. If you're still having issues, feel free to reach out to me, and I will go to our friends at the CTA on that. Sorry, now I got to go through all this again. Right now, in terms of who we have doing the testing in the Silver State, not a lot of folks yet. Right now, we have 5 certified testers, 3 in Washoe County, 2 down in Clark. That number I expect is going to grow. It's about a 2-hour training course to go through this with CARB, to take a test, to become a credentialed tester, then buying the software. But that is available. So I know, like I said, our friends of the California Trucking Association have done a tremendous amount of work on this already. But I do think it is important to just remind folks that this is not just a requirement on you. This is something that, you know, you want to let your customers know about as well, because they do have a record keeping requirement on them. So if freight is required, you know, if you're required to go into California with freight, they have to keep that record that you are a compliant fleet as well. I know we have some of our dealers on. You know, I was talking to Mike Yaden with the California, who is a board member of both the Nevada Trucking Association and the California Trucking Association. Mike, do you have anything to add to this fun new regulation that we're going to be moving forward with?
Hi, Paul. Nothing specific to this reg. You and I were just talking a little bit about the other related regulations that are still in play in California, you know, the Advanced Clean Truck and Advanced Clean Fleets. And all I would say to that is just stay tuned. There's still some dynamics in play. For those of you that are aware, you know, CTA has filed a lawsuit against Advanced Clean Fleets. And then there are others that have, including some Republican AGs that have filed lawsuits challenging the Advanced Clean Trucks. So both of those are still kind of up in the air, although CARB is certainly, you know, assuming things will move forward, and they are certainly planning to implement as they are able. But I would just say at this point, kind of stay tuned, certainly on those things like this clean truck program. You know, the important thing is certainly, as Paul says, is to encourage compliance. And then we'll wait and see what happens on the other fronts. So stay tuned is my message.
So does anybody have any questions? Like I said, there are a lot of rabbit holes we can go down here. I didn't want to do that today and
wait for a ride. Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we are, you know, we are in that period where you just have a couple of weeks to become compliant on this. And once again, just have to recognize the great work that our friends at the California Trucking Association do on these issues. They've done webinars with our friends at CARB. So they are really the tip of the spear on this for us. And I just got a message from one of our dealers that they got certified. So that's good. So, and I do know that is happening. All right, Cynthia, I see a question from Cynthia. So yes, if you hire any semi to go to California to pick up a load, you are going to have that affirmation of fleet-wide compliance certificate from them. And here's how this typically works, right? The EPA will send you a letter asking for documentation of get it from Region 9 of CARB compliance. And those are pretty scary letters to get as carriers, you know, that threaten fines of over $100,000 a day, you know, if you don't send the data there. So yes, this is something that if you're hiring a semi to go in there, you want to have this document. And I will tell you, this already exists. This already exists, you know, in a sense already with CARB. For motor carriers, for brokers, you already have to say, hey, the trucks that we are sending into the Golden State are CARB compliant. There's part of me that thinks this is actually a little easier, that it does make it clear. So you know, that's unfortunately where we're at with this. Okay, Stephanie, who's supposed to notify motor carriers? Well, that's something that CARB is doing. CARB is supposed to be out there doing media. I will say, as of yesterday, talking to Mike Tunnell with the American Transportation Research Institute, who deals a lot with CARB, that they are kind of scratching their head saying, gosh, there's not a lot of folks that that have signed up yet, and we're just wondering if everybody's going to wait until the end of the year. So that's where we're at. Dave, is there a regulated cost? I don't believe so. I think that's kind of up to up to you, up to the businesses. You are looking at about a $1,600 investment in the tooling. I don't know if we have any dealers on here who would be interested to say what they're looking at charging, for this right now. But hey, if you do have a big fleet, you do have a shop that, and you are sending a lot of vehicles into California, that might not be a bad investment. So it's, I think this is one where the free market is gonna prevail. Does anybody have any more insight into that? Everybody's shy today. Yeah, you'll look at this. It looks like it's a fairly easy thing to be able to do. And then once again, we'll see what happens with CARB when they start approving those telematic devices, maybe in your ELD that could submit that data to CARB. So it's easy. Once again, a lot of this on their part, as with a lot of the regulations, are forward-looking and not necessarily based with the reality that exists today. So this is a no earlier than July of next year. But just want to let you know, hey, to be ready for it and to go ahead and take that first step of registering that California fleet.
Hey, Paul, one other thing, there's also a regulation to register your transport refrigeration units. That's also end of this year. And supposedly, when you register, they're going to give you a sticker similar to an IFTA sticker to put on your reefer unit. And there's been some discussion that the fines are actually against shippers or receivers that allow trailers in that aren't certified, that a lot of the shippers or receivers will turn trailers away that do not have the sticker. So that's also a December 31st, 2023 requirement.
Paul, I really appreciate that. Thank you for letting us know that, and we will get that and send that out to everybody as well for all of our reefer haulers. Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? Do you have to sign up your full fleet, or only those that go into California? Only those trucks that go into California. So, you are going to identify your California fleet. All right. I used to have folks like Paul who would speak up. I guess that's happening less today.
Hey, Paul, we have a question over here in Nevada at the dairy, Ponderosa Dairy.
Yes,
we
sir.
Have those CNG trucks. Yeah, we have those CNG trucks. You said they're exempt, correct?
Yes. So you've got the CNG trucks, and what it says here is for your non-OBD alternative fuel vehicles such as propane, CNG, LNG, you're exempt from the testing requirement.
Okay, so do we need any kind of sticker or certification to show that, or they just won't even target us in the inspections?
They're not going to target you with
Perfect.
that's your inspection. So you're good there. Okay, Stephanie, when stopped it, will they test for emissions there? Honestly, I am not 100% positive on that. It looks like it's, not just your inspection stations like at Mountain Pass or at Truckee. It looks like they're setting up some remote ones on the road, and that honestly that kind of makes a little more sense because there have been issues with trying to get good tests from the snap idle, where your truck is stopped. It's actually better for them to get a reading on the road. I'm looking at this Kenworth that's just blowing coal right there, and I mean that picture has to be at least 30 years old. I mean, I don't think we've seen that kind of smoke coming out of a stack in a long time. But hey, that's what I guess that's what every emission person, that's what they hope to see, that makes it easier. So if you do, you could get a ticket, Stephanie. You could just get that letter requiring you to submit that test.
We actually did get a letter, Paul, and I want to say it was from a random testing facility in Rialto or Indio somewhere, just kind of one of these roadside inspections. We've been debating, do we invest in the dongle or do we just have this one-off tested by one of the vendors you showed on the screen previously? We really think long-term they're going to work with the EOBs that are currently on the trucks so that you can just submit your data through PeopleNet or, one of the Qualcomm, one of those services. So we're debating that, but we did get a ticket, one of these NSTs that we have to respond to.
And this is something that isn't necessarily new. In terms of the opacity testing, they've been doing this for a long time. We have opacity testing in Nevada, although because of some of the issues with the snap idle test and not being able to get a good read unless it's actually moving, unless it's under a load. We actually had DMV here writing some brand new trucks that would prevent your engine from revving above 1500 RPMs as a tamper. And we had to go and have some very fun negotiations with them at that time. But Paul is absolutely right. Your ELDs or onboard recording device, electronic onboard devices, those we hope will be approved by CARB to submit that data. So, you won't have to pull a truck out and do a test and then submit it 4 times a year. So.
Hey, Paul, this is Mike. Just something to think about. And again, I'm not the expert, so please, and don't shoot the messenger from California either. But, just this whole crossover between the clean truck program and what's coming up on the advanced clean fleets, the registration process that's required here. I'm wondering the crossover potential, because you and I were talking a little bit about this. Once you have trucks registered under this program, you would assume that data is going to be shared under the advanced clean fleets, including provisions, in California about useful life provision of trucks. So it'll be interesting to see how, if there is a crossover from this program to that, is a means to track useful life of trucks that are actually working in California or traveling in California, and the crossover as it relates to your conversion requirements to zero emission vehicles under the advanced clean fleets.
And, the reality with a lot of this, folks, is it kind of depends who the next president is. you know, I mean, if you get a president of a different party, what happened last time is they took away California's waiver from the EPA. That could happen again. But that is something that will likely be litigated, and who knows if that will be, you know, if we have a good answer by the end of the decade on that, to be 100% honest. I mean, this is not a quick or a cheap process in fighting some of these rules that our friends in the Golden State have put forward. Are there any other questions or anything else for the good of the order? Well, hey, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. I want to say thank you, Mr. Truman. That was great information on the reefer trucks. You know, once again, have that conversation with your customers. Make sure that they have that document, that you're sharing that document with them, because this is a pretty wide-reaching requirement for freight contractors, for brokers, for motor carriers. So having that data, having that information there, knowing about it is important. You know, we're going to keep blasting this out to folks up until December 31st, just to remind people. We'll have the applicable links, as well as where you go and sign up. And let me know if you are having issues signing up. We'll reach out to our friends at CTA and see what the problem is, and because they do have a working relationship with the folks over at CARB, and we can get that addressed. So, but once again, want to thank them for putting this information out there, making it easy and digestible. And if there aren't any more questions, I'll go ahead and you know, just say, hey, is there anything else for the good of the order here? All right. Well, hey, thank you for your time. Like I said, I wanted this to be kind of a quick little informational thing. We're going to send this out to, we're going to send this recording out to our members later today. So feel free to forward it to people who you think need to know this. And hey, good luck and Godspeed to everybody. Really appreciate you folks joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
Paul.
You.